You have to train your staff. They all need to know what to do because it's precision and it's speed involved. And those are two things that don't match well together. So for having precision and doing things fast, you have to have the proper tool.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wisenetix Podcast episode. I'm really glad to have here with me today Gabriel Frainer. Gabriel is the Sales Executive Manager at ColoQuick, and he's going to be sharing a little bit of his experience, his story today, as well as some new and cool stuff about the dairy industry. Welcome, Gabriel.
Hi, Ricardo. Thanks for having me.
I'll translate the Brazilian Gabriel to Gabriel, just
Yeah.
for our listeners here. And Gabriel, we would like to start this conversation. Actually, it's kind of like a tradition here. We like to start the conversation understanding a little bit better the background of our guests. So, if you want to share a little bit of, about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gabriel. I'm originally from Brazil. I live in Canada for a few years now. I immigrated with my wife and kid at that time, actually, a few years ago. And then now we are four. We are now one quart of the family is Canadian. The three quarters are Brazilian. And I'm a veterinarian from Brazil. I did my master's degree over there in pathology. And I also have some experience with teaching. I was associate professor at two universities in Brazil. And yeah, I started my own business. I still have a chain of pathology laboratories, mostly focused on small animals in southern Brazil. Um, yeah, and now I'm working with ColoQuick for a few years, and yeah, I guess that's it.
So, for you guys in the audience, Gabriel is originally from the same city as I am, where I'm speaking from right now, Porto Alegre, in south of Brazil. And Gabe, so you have this cool experience, lived in Brazil, then moved to Canada. Throughout your journey, what would you highlight as your, top three experiences professionally, personally, and what have you learned from those experiences?
Well, I would say that teaching on the vet school was a big experience for me. I was very young at that time, and that kind of boosted my maturity. It ripping me out by seeing other students and younger people challenges and kind of seeing myself there. And of course, I was on the other side of the classroom, so I had to keep up and study and make sure I was doing the right thing. So that was a big development on my career. After that, the immigration process was a little tough, but even worse, or in a good way, actually. Arriving at the new job in a foreign country without experience. I mean, I had some experience at that time. I worked in Scotland for a few months period of time, and also in the US, but nothing compared to what I did when I immigrated. I was working as a director of medical services on a vet clinic, and the first thing, my first hat was to talk to clients over the phone, and that was 2019, and a few months after we had the pandemic. So everything went remote and by phone. And as a not native speaker in English, speaking through the phone was quite a challenge to me. And I was also in a position where I had to have some different level of conversation with clients and suppliers. So that was tough, but it was a huge learning. And yeah, it was a great experience. And that was the second. The third was for sure becoming a parent. Uh, Having kids, it's just a project that you are never prepared to. and it's something that you are constantly learning and constantly failing and constantly keeping yourself up, because you will always be wanting more from yourself because you want to give them your best, right? So it's kind of those were the three main experiences I had that forged who I am and part of what I am professionally.
Awesome. Most people that have kids, when they come here and they talk about their top experiences, being a parent is definitely on their top three.
Yeah, yeah,
A great challenge at the same time, like really rewarding. I don't have kids yet, so cannot relate completely to that. But the second experience, I really liked what you brought here in terms of grabbing a phone, calling to people in a language that is not your mother language.
yeah,
As here in our company, we are fully digital. We are all the time when we're prospecting, using digital tools and also phone. And there's this fear that people have. We even have a name for that, which is called reluctance, which is like it's a great barrier to break through. It's really hard, and I relate a lot to that because I had no problem about prospecting and getting in touch with people through email, but grabbing a phone and calling,
yeah,
it might sound like something like small, but overcoming that fear of calling and getting in touch with someone, it's a great challenge. In the beginning, I was feeling like, hey, oh my God, I'm interrupting their routine. I'm gonna call them. They're gonna be so pissed with me, and they're gonna send me to hell. But once you get comfortable with it and you start making calls in a way that
yeah,
first you understand that you are calling because you want to provide them with a solution, propose something that will help them. You start seeing this as a win-win connection, not only like I'm bothering them to sell them something, right? So once you get through this, you understand this, and you also start feeling natural in this process of calling, everything gets much easier. I'm pretty sure you also went through these barriers, and probably now it's much easier than before.
yeah. Definitely, it's not just the language. It's also a cultural barrier because, like, I work mostly in North America, but I also work with a lot of European countries and some people from Africa, Asia. And you have to be aware of the culture of the person you're speaking to or calling, because each place they have their own culture on how to handle this kind of situation. And in Brazil, we are a continental country, but we are also an island in South America. So before the final quarter of my university, my grad school, I didn't have much experience with culture abroad. I was inserted in this little world, which is southern Brazil, and yeah, once you get used to the fact that your culture is one way, and kind of find the tune for that kind of generic way of bringing topics and interacting with people, then it becomes much easier for sure.
So the last part of the first part of our podcast here is which is the introduction. It's when we transition to business talk, and the way we like to do this is asking our guest speakers and how would their parents describe what they do today. So how would your parents describe your role, your position, and the work you're doing today?
Well, I think I don't make it easy for them because what I do, it doesn't fit on a box or in one line. As I said, I'm originally a veterinarian, but I don't do much vet work per se, and I would say that they can see more clear now that what I do is connecting with people and doing business with, of course, a huge scientific background, and that's kind of what summarizes what I do. But yeah, I would say that they're still confused on what I do. I'm also a little bit confused, but I'm sure it's worse for them. But yeah, they're very proud of what I do and where I what I achieved, right? Um, but yeah, I don't have the answer. I don't know if they are fully aware of what I'm doing.
Awesome. So it's sometimes it's hard to answer this question. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if I think my parents would understand what I do because it's they are in involved in sales and other things. So basically, that's how I would summarize.
Hmm.
But so you started in the vet school
Yeah.
here in the south of Brazil. You've been through business management positions, went through other challenges, calling customers as you mentioned.
Uh-huh.
And can you share with us like how this path led you to where you are today, and how this path influenced you to become a sales executive manager?
Yeah, I haven't mentioned, but after I finished my masters, I was on on a crossroad on my career because I did the test and everything to get into the postdoctoral position, but I had to choose between going keeping on into the research and academic stuff or jumping into a new project, and that's what I did. I joined a project to start a hospital in Porto Alegre. So this hospital became one of the largest vet groups in Brazil, and that was 2012, 13, 13, yeah. We started this big hospital in Porto Alegre, where I also started my own business, and that experience gave me the base to kind of start looking to this another world, which is business development, and that's something that I got passionate about. So I helped these three friends to start this project. It's called Pet Support. It's a big hospital. Now they have four or five, I don't remember. We have all units. They have one of my labs inside. Um, and this group got bought by a Canadian group a few years ago, and we are on the midst of changing, from one brand to another. But that was an important thing that happened to me, and that kind of triggered my not my knowledge, but my will to investigate into this area and start my own business. And that experience helped me to achieve most of the job positions and things that I have now, through developing new business, thinking on through the consumer's mind, thinking about product, thinking about services, how to set up a project, timeline, this kind of stuff. And that was very very helpful because, as you can imagine, Ricardo, during the vet school, I was never taught something like this. So that was something that I learned on the way. And in 2015, I started my MBA in business development. That also gave me the theory to help me achieve more and do less mistakes along the way. Um, so yeah, I think that this combination was what initiated the work that I'm developing now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see because like right now, my fiance, she's in process of starting her own clinic. Right, she's a gynecologist, and it's most of the education that we get through academy, they don't they prepare us to be technical people, to solve the problems in a technical way, the best way possible, which is their objective. But when it comes to your time to go to the market and make things happen, basically everything you learned is in the end part of a commercial process, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
For you to solve a problem, first you need to have a customer, sell to them, and or bring them, convince them that you have good solutions, so then you can solve their problems.
Mhm.
And the academic background doesn't give you that. So it's really interesting that you also seek, uh, you went after education that would help you with that, like with the MBA on business development. And that's something similar even to me. Like I studied, although I studied design and I had more like marketing content throughout my bachelor's, my education.
Mhm.
That gave me, yes, a solid base for me to start things. But there were so many other challenges that I had to face when it comes to sales, how to how to go after and create a market, develop my business, that I had to learn by myself, as I was doing things.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
this is something very interesting that I see in the journeys of most people that start technical and then they go through like business management and they learn more about business development, sales, and this sort of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing now relating to the MBA that you did, focus on business development. What would you highlight as key insights, the most important things you learned as you were going through this education?
Well, first was I got a solid knowledge on administration. That was something that I was lacking and willing to get better on. You know, just the theory, which is very simple. It's like basic life things, but it just helps you get your thoughts organized, and you have a better outcome after you realize some little details. And the other thing was developing a product or a service, and the tools that I learned to find the tune and dial the product or the service you are willing to offer, um, according to the demand and to the public and market share you are aiming for, right? So that was the two main things that I remember. Solidifying the administration part of things, which is crucial for business sustainability, and also the tools that I learned to develop the ideas, also to present them, and kind of understand if your idea is something feasible or if it's just crazy ideas. Because I'm a person that I have a problem. I have so many ideas, and of course 95% of them are just too crazy to be put on practical terms. So with those tools and methodologies, you empower yourself to understand your idea and kind of realize if that's something doable or not, if there is potential, if there's value on that, or even to find value on a crazy idea, which sometimes it's necessary.
And just out of curiosity, how do you filter good ideas from bad ideas?
Well, my wife, she's a good filter. she's I work from home, right, and she is my first line colleague. I would say. She's the CEO of the family, and she listened to all my crazy ideas, and she is my first filter. And then, of course, you just have to share with some colleagues, and we have specifically talking about ColoQuick. Now, I'm having a lot of crazy ideas, and we have an amazing research and development team in Denmark, where our head office is. So I'm in constant contact with our engineer and my colleague veterinarian there, thinking on how to bring those ideas up to life. And because the niche that we are working on, the colostrum management, it's an open field, and there's so many demand for innovation on this area. and people are just realizing that this is an important topic, and it's a hot topic everywhere you go. Seminars, conferences. Colostrum is a hot topic, so there's a lot to be done, and we are far ahead of most of other companies that work with calf rearing. And yeah.
So basically, a good way for you to filter your ideas is to validate with your peers, with your colleagues, and people around you, and basically use critical thinking, right?
Exactly.
Check that with okay, that's the idea, but where is the market? How is the supply chain? Is this feasible or not?
Another thing that I use now that you're talking, I remember I kind of, now that I'm with this company for almost 3 years now, and I kind of know what are the questions that my boss always asks me on bring up a new idea, and I kind of use that line of thinking to criticize myself and improve the idea, or kind of trim a little, trim the loose ends, and have a better final product to present.
So you're in a place where you understand now the framework of thinking, and then you can pre
Yeah.
like do a test with yourself before you bring the idea to the table.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
Yeah, that's important. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit more about ColoQuick and the work that you guys are doing. Actually, just before we jump into that, uh, you for you in the audience, you might not know, but I had a chance to talk to Gabe here for a few times. He
Hmm.
explained a little bit on the work that they're doing, the type of products, which we're going to discuss in a few minutes. And to my understanding, your product today, it's for someone, for a customer or anything, anyone that would buy your product, it requires a certain level of technical knowledge, right, to understand it. Of course, our mission is always to simplify the message so everyone understands, but it's a product that is directly related to science and how things work, and technical knowledge. Would you say
Hmm.
that your sales process today is more like a consultative sales process, or it's more like straight to the point? How does it work? Can you guide us through a little bit how you sell your product, your idea?
Sure. Yeah. ColoQuick makes my life easy, because it's a natural solution for a big problem that every dairy farmer has. So basically, just for our audience to understand, we are all mammals and we all need colostrum. So my daughters, the first thing they had was colostrum. Your dog, the first milk has is colostrum. Calf is the same. But for ruminants, there's a big difference, because ruminants, they have a different type of placenta, and because of that, there's no transfer of immunity from the mom to the calf inside the womb. So during the pregnancy, there's no transfer of immunity from the mom to the offspring. So 100% of the first line of defense of that calf after it's born relies on the first feeding of colostrum. Okay, and so we start from here, right? And then there's a second fact. There's a big problem. It's 1 hour after this calf is born, its ability to absorb the antibodies, the immunoglobulins that we have in colostrum, it starts to decline. So after the calf is born, we have a race against time. And as soon as we feed the calf, as sooner we do that, higher are the probabilities that it will absorb more immunoglobulins, right? So with all that said, what ColoQuick does is we empower dairy farmers, dairy producers, with a tool to use their own maternal colostrum to feed their calves efficiently. So they establish a colostrum bank where they keep pre-tested colostrum frozen. It's a freezer, the colostrum bank. And when they have a calf, they remove the cartridge with colostrum from the freezer. They put inside our unit, and for 20 minutes, it will gently thaw and warm it up to the calf's body temperature. Uh, and after this process is done, they turn the cartridge into a backpack, and they have the two hands free to easily and safely feed the calf. So it's a methodology and system that allows them empower their producers and their staff to process colostrum the right way with the precision that's necessary and with the speed that this management requires. Because 1 hour seems a lot of time, but not when you have 100 cows, 200 cows, 1,000, 10,000, right? So in industrial operations, time is very limited, and especially here in North America, labor force is a big issue. So if you have a way to streamline the process, making sure nobody is damaging the immunoglobulins and feeding calves as soon as possible, then you can see the benefits of this management. So why are we doing all this? Not just because we want to have a well-fed calf. That's because that first feeding will dictate how good that calf will grow, and and how it will express all its genetic potential. And here we can introduce another topic, which is epigenetics. I like to use the analogy to bees. So when we think about bees, they're a very simple insect, right? But very interesting because um, you have basically two types of animals. You have the queen bee and the worker bee. The queen bee is almost 10 times bigger. It has the reproductive system in place, different than the worker bee. The worker bee doesn't have a good life, it's just working and it's just a workaholic insect. Yeah. The difference between a queen bee and a worker bee is that while they are a larvae, right, after they eclode the egg and they're developing as a larvae, the feed it's offered to this larvae is different. So the queen bee will receive the royal jelly, while the worker bee will receive regular honey, and that will trigger the DNA and all the genetics of that larvae to develop into a queen or into a worker. So it's almost the same, or pretty much the same with calves. Of course, not just the first feeding, but the feeding within the first 90 days of that calf's life will dictate how good that calf will grow, how fast and well it will develop into a heifer, and the amount of milk it will produce during its productive life, and also the lifespan. So calves that are fed on this optimized way within the first hour, good quality colostrum, they will produce on the second lactation a bit more than 600 kilos of milk. They will develop into the reproduction phase faster, so heifers will grow faster, and inside that is this period where they're developing the calf rearing part, we will see less morbidity and less mortality, which we can translate to less scours, less diarrhea, less pneumonia, less antibiotic use, and this is why ColoQuick. So we are optimizing a procedure to have a high performance herd, high performance animals.
Wow, you just gave me
I
uh,
know.
you just gave me the pitch. So everyone in the audience, that's a very applied example of how to explain, which is awesome. I'm not technical at all. I don't understand about
Uh-huh.
veterinarian medicine or anything like that. But you made it really simple for a newbie like me, newbie,
Maybe.
to understand the process. So that's very interesting. And is that like the approach you have when you're talking to a customer? Because it's quite a we're talking about precision.
Yeah, precision farming. Yeah.
We're talking about innovative solutions, and we know that sometimes the industry, especially for new ideas and different things, the industry can not avoid them, but can be quite conservative
Yeah.
if they are adopting such things or not. How do you convince, like, so you just explained, you simplify the message in a beautiful way, using a great example with the queen bee. Um, but how do you do this with your customers? Is it like you just did now as an example? What else do you do? Like, in your process, do you have like specific steps you want to accomplish in order to get them? to buy the idea, for example, before explaining them the idea? Do you have any discovery steps? How does it work?
Yeah. So with farmers, you heard there's a big range of knowledge amongst farmers, right? Most of them are very well informed and aware of the benefits of colostrum management and so on. So what I like to do is I like to start asking how big their operation is, so I can kind of tailor my approach through that, because it's different when you have, like, for example, I was visiting a farmer in Spain and he has 70 milking cows. It's one approach. When I'm talking to a dairy manager in Wisconsin and they have 8,000 milking cows, it's a different approach. So you first need to understand where are they coming from, right? So their basic knowledge around this topic. So I ask a few questions, starting, like I said, for how big is the operation, and how are they feeding their colostrum. And with those two questions, I have enough to kind of understand who I'm talking to and what's the approach I should have. And then along the way, as I go finding out, because this was like an overview of the process, but inside this process, or when you go into details, we have to know what's the temperature of the freezer, right? How long does it take for them to thaw, or what's the temperature they are thawing the portion of colostrum? What's the type of pasteurizer they're using, if they are pasteurizing? This kind of stuff. The way of they are feeding, if they're tube feeding, if they're using bottles, or so there's a lot of little details that make a difference on the approach. But I always start by understanding how big is the operation they're coming from, and what are the protocols they have in place for this specific management.
Awesome. So it's a little bit of question-based selling to understand their scenario,
Yeah,
their reality, and then you dive a little bit deeper into technical aspects, like you were just sharing.
yeah,
But I love the way that you summarize the idea for anyone that is not even in the industry can understand. So that's something awesome that we always try to do in communication, right? Make
sure.
the message the most simple possible, but still with the core message you want to deliver in a way that is clear for everyone and easy to understand.
Hmm.
One thing that we talked about also, actually, you just mentioned, like it's colostrum management, and this whole, let's call segment or industry is quite a blue ocean, right? There's a lot of
Hmm.
opportunity you can explore. There's not a lot of, I don't know, if knowledge or at least solutions in this industry. Uh, how do you see this, especially now bringing another thing, especially when it comes to like regulation and standards in the industry? The
Hmm.
other the other day when we were talking, you mentioned that even the standards of like a good colostrum management today, they are kind of outdated, or they are not very
Yeah.
well aligned to the best productivity that you're expecting, right?
Uh-huh.
It's maybe 2 hours, if I remember well, that it's the standards, but you guys recognize that it's even less than that. It's about 1 hour.
Yeah.
How do you guys tackle these issues when even the standards they don't help you? And how do you take advantage of that? How do you take advantage of this blue ocean to explore opportunities, and also bring this knowledge to your customers, educate your customers on that?
That's a big topic, man. Well, you're right. You got it right, Ricardo. The gold standards nowadays, talking about USA, you hear a feed within 2 hours, and they also recommend a second feeding in 6 to 8 hours after. But that's because of a lack of technology to allow farmers to do that within 1 hour. Because if you go to the scientific data, the research on colostrum and the impact of this management, it's obvious that feeding within the first hour is the way to go. But I guess those standards, they were put in place.
They're
How can I say this? They were put in place.
they're kind of based on the technology that is available in the market. So that's why they're the
Exactly,
standards.
exactly,
It's not a lack of knowledge that 1 hour would be better than 2 hours. It's just like it's not today without technologies like ColoQuick is bringing to the market. It's not feasible for producers to do it.
exactly. And that's also part of the answer for the second part of your question, which is how we take advantage or leverage from that, right? So, as I was saying, there's when we look at the competitors or other colostrum management system, nothing is compared to ColorQuick, because all the other options, they thaw a portion with 1 hour 20 minutes, 1 hour, and ColorQuick does the same in 20 minutes. And like I said, after the first hour, after the calf was born, the absorption starts to decline. So the way I bring that to clients when we are comparing or when they are browsing for different solutions, I always highlight these from this perspective, right? So if you are aiming for average, right, you can go to any other solution. But if you want to go for high performance, if you want to be part of the elite, then you go for ColorQuick. And I like to use the analogy to a Formula One car. That's because sometimes we're talking to not the managers, we're talking to people that are handling the animals, and it's easier for them to kind of memorize something if they have something that they can visualize in their minds, right? So I use the Formula One car in this way. So a calf that was not fed on an optimized way or failed on passive transfer. So this transfer from the colostrum, the immunity from the colostrum to the calf, is called passive transfer. Okay, so the calf that fail on passive transfer, they are like a Formula One cars with flat tires. Okay, so you have a great engine, you are putting the best fuel available in market on that car, and that car will never perform as it could because of the flat tires. And that's the same with the calf. You have the best genetics, but you failed on the first and most important part of its life, and from now on that calf will never bloom into a high productive cow. And you're putting the same feed amount to that cow as you were putting on if she was a high productive cow, right? Of course, a little bit better because it's producing more, but it's one unit animal, right? That it's using a space on your barn. So that's how I bring it to clients, right? Would you like to have flat tire cows in your barn or not, or high performing ones? And that's ColoQuick. So I also use the the Formula One pit stop. So the colostrum feeding should be seen by the managers as a as a Formula One pit stop. Okay, you have to train your staff. They all need to know what to do because it's precision and it's speed involved. And those are two things that don't match well together. So for having precision and doing things fast, you have to have the proper tool, and that's where ColoQuick enters. So ColoQuick is the tool, the power drill that will help their staff to perform better on feeding the calf, and with that, making sure that that car tires are fully pumped on and ready to race. And I mean, I like to make this analogy, because it sticks to people's mind. And I also created using artificial intelligence. I created a Formula One pit stop with a calf on it, which is kind of awesome. Everybody thinks that, oh, how did you got a calf into a race track or something, but it was AI. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do nowadays.
Yeah, it's what we use to create our astronaut animals also. So
Oh, the astronaut, you're made like that.
yeah,
Oh, interesting.
the astronaut animals are also made with the AI. So yeah, AI is crazy. And so you have this new technology, innovative, working with precision farming, aiming productivity.
Uh huh.
How do you see the role of communication today in expanding the sort of you know sort of solutions? Because like usually if we think about innovative solutions, they usually come from smaller companies like startups and those sort of companies. Of course, like big companies, they also do their
Sure.
actually big companies usually they buy the small ones that
Yeah.
that have
Yeah.
the tested ideas, right? uh, but it's a challenge for companies that startups and so on to invest in communication and everything, but at the same time leveraging a whole market only with like limited by the size of your team, the number of your sales people you have, those sorts of things. It's also a big challenge. So how do you see the role of communication in promoting those sort of solutions and helping in their adoption in the industry?
Well, communication is the main pillar for what we are doing here. In Denmark, we have well-established calf dogs. That's how it's called in Danish, the calf days. Um, so they gather farmers. They have a little lunch break or a coffee break, and they discuss colostrum management. And this is something we are bringing up here to North America also. So we have been carrying on some calf days in Wisconsin, and in 2 weeks' time we'll have some all over Canada as well. Um, and we will be improving our social media presence as well. We are just ColoQuick also has a cycling team. I haven't mentioned it, so we're very busy because it's I don't remember which anniversary, but yeah, ColoQuick's almost 30 years now as Calvex, the original company, and the cycling team is celebrating its anniversary. I don't remember how old it is, but because one of the former athletes won twice the Tour de France last year and the previous one, we got more recognized. So it's big in Europe. Cycling is huge in Europe, and our main market is in Europe. So our people are very busy on developing the new brand and the new look of ColoQuick, um, not just the company but also the cycling team. So we have to enhance our presence, online presence, mainly in North America. But it's crucial, man. And of course, most of the farmers and the current managers, I would say that they don't. Social media is not as important as it is for the next generation, but this next generation is taking position into the managing positions, right? um, and and communication through social media is it's very important, but also we can't just rely on that. We also have to go in person. So that's why I mentioned those calf days, because there's no much initiatives towards calf rearing, and we are kind of pioneers on bringing that idea and the knowledge around the first feeding, but also the first 90 days of that cow's life.
Gabe, we're getting to the end of our conversation here. So, just for us to wrap up, you've been in an industry for a while now, in different positions. What would be one piece of advice you would give to someone starting their career today?
Make sure you have the basics, the basic knowledge on whatever you are specializing on. You don't have to be the top researcher to be impactful on your industry, but you definitely need to have the basics and fully understanding of the methodology, the scientific methodology, I would say. And as your last question, communication. You have to learn how to present yourself. Um, how to understand what others are telling you, because sometimes words, they're not meaning the whole thing, in a negotiation or into any situation. So you have to train yourself into soft skills and be open to learn constantly, even from very hard situations. You have to take it as a learning process and something that will make you stronger and not make you limp for the rest of your life. It's very easy to get attached to your fails and disappointments, but it's much more rewardful, to focus on what you leverage from a bad experience. Um, yeah, I would say that that's the main thing. Communicate yourself and and learn to understand what others are communicating to you, and be sure that you have the minimal technical skills and knowledge wherever you're doing.
Absolutely. I think yeah, it's Bob Iger. Bob Iger, he's a CEO of Disney. He says, like in this masterclass,
Uh,
that it's not exactly the same, but like your strategy is only
uh,
possible, let's say, uh, due to your capacity of communication and your capacity of having clarity in communicating your ideas and making yourself to be understood, and to make your ideas to make sense to other people.
mhm.
So it's not only about being, as you mentioned, the top researcher. Sometimes it's better not to be the top researcher, but be a good one with a good ability to
Yeah.
pass this message to the other people, especially when you want to grow and want to get to leading positions, lead teams, and communicate with other people, lead them. So
Yeah.
that's absolutely, communication is not only about advertising and promoting products, but well, it's some kind of personal advertising also,
Uh-huh.
when
Uh-huh.
you're in a company and you want to grow there. So that's definitely a top one for me also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And any books, podcasts, movies, documentaries you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Well, most of the books I've been reading, they are kid stories. I'm reading books with my daughter. I mean, my daughter, she's 7 now, and she's fully reading, and I have to start catching up with with her readings. Because she starts reading books that I don't know the content, and I'm starting to become a little worried because I don't know what she's talking about. So I've been reading a lot of kids books, and of course I have a 3-year-old. Um, so, but back to your question, I would say that there's so much content online. That the main thing that I would say is just be aware of what you're looking for, because you can find anything, and you can find information that you are willing to hear, but you have to be critical enough to understand the information that you have to hear instead of what you want to hear or what you are forced to hear. So pay attention to that, and do some background on whatever you're listening, um, including this podcast. um, yeah, I would say that that's the main thing. There's lots of good things out there. Just be careful and wise on what you are reading, listening, or watching.
Yeah, when you're in an ocean of information and content,
Yeah, you can drown easily.
is really important. What are you selecting?
Yeah, yeah. The critical thinking, right? This is something that we are lacking nowadays, and uh, yeah, just be careful.
And my last question is, where can our listeners find you online?
Well, I have those classic social media platforms, right? Facebook, maybe Instagram. I'm not much active there. Um, LinkedIn also, but you can find me Gabriel Frainer, even either Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know if I should give my email address. Some
You can.
yeah, you guys can email me Gabriel at ColoQuick.com. Yeah, and reach out to me. I'm always available.
Awesome. Gabe, thanks a lot for the lesson. Not only the conversation, but the lesson,
Oh, thank you.
colostrum management and everything.
My
I'm pretty
pleasure.
sure that anyone that is even not from the industry can understand the principles and how that's important and impactful for the industry. And for you that is with us listening to this podcast episode, thank you for staying with us, and I hope to see you on our new and next episode. So thanks a lot, and see you next week.
See you. Thank you.